at least. So from the knowledge or from what I have seen, I haven't seen Xcode version or Xcode binary at least released for other than Apple iOS, Mac OS. I'm not sure whether we have Xcode for Linux. Not 100%. Okay. So as I know, as of today, there is no Xcode available for Linux. So that is the close encounter, close ecosystem with Apple is that you need to own Apple product in order to develop. But I know most of you guys might not have an Apple product with you, but there are certain virtualization stuff that you can do. But I don't recommend it that it's not gonna work as smooth as what you're working with the real Macintosh. So I'm not into that. So basically, it's better you guys work with a real Xcode, real machine, real hardware. So Xcode itself is the IDE for developing iOS application, not only for iOS application, but if you need Apple related applications. So for for Macintosh or for tablets, anything that is coming in Apple ecosystem, you can use Xcode to develop. So it is the only IDE that I have seen capable of developing iOS application without hassle. You can use other IDEs or text editors, but I'm not sure they're going to be doing a great job like Xcode does. Okay, so let's keep it in mind that Xcode is the de facto when it is coming to iOS application development. Okay, all right. So let me create a new Xcode project, then we'll be looking at developing applications in for Apple. So you can see that there are, as I mentioned earlier, there is multiple type of applications that you can do. So you can develop application for iOS, Mac OS, watchOS, tvOS, Drive Kit. I'm not sure what is this exactly. Maybe something related to cars or automobiles. So these are like the ecosystems that you will find in Android itself. Okay, but our focus is going to be on iOS only. Okay, we'll be looking into a simple application. It's not going to do anything else other than just looking at it, looking at these things. So there are other applications where you can develop a game, or if you are into augmented reality, you can develop AR games and messaging apps. But at this point, we'll be mainly focusing on developing a simple basic application. So yeah, we'll be developing an app. Click the next button, and same as what you have seen in Android, you can have a product name. So I will say SN SENG, right? SNG 2019, something like that, a product name, that you can identify uniquely, or you can just simply call my doctor application or drive application, whatever. Make sure this name is unique. Not the name, but at least you can identify it yourself. So there is the concept of teams, which I'm not going to be using at this moment. Okay, we will talk about teams later on. And as you can see, you need to have an organization identifier, like the package name that you have seen. You can use the com.hrunbika.ios for your task, or you can have a reverse domain for make it unique. Okay. And next thing that we need to do is, okay, you can see the name bundle identifier. It's not going to be like very appealing. So I will just it's like this driver application. Okay, you can even change this name, bundle identifier. This is like the unique identifier for your application. I'm just gonna call it driver dash application. And the next thing is like what you have seen in Android. The interface that you're going to be building, there are two options, which will be talking about the Swift or the storyboard. Okay, so there are interface builders available. So there is if you have interface selected as storyboard, which is kind of like similar to the XML approach that we have seen in Android, where you have the navigation, you have the XMLs and everything. So that's kind of the vibe that you will get on a storyboard. I'm not saying it is 100%, but that is kind of the way it's if it is like compared to Android. So if you select a storyboard, you have different languages that you can select Swift or Objective-C. So Swift is the latest languages from Apple to develop any application. So I wouldn't go with Objective-C. The reason behind is Objective-C is like more of obsolete at this point. So we don't need to learn a very old language, which will be soon nobody will knows. So we won't be using anyhow. The language we'll be choosing is going to be Swift. Okay. So don't worry, Swift is really easy to learn. It resembles most of the common things that you will see in what do you call Kotlin or TypeScript, those kind of things. So it's going to be really easy. It's fun to learn. So yeah, we'll be using Swift, and we will not be using storyboard at this point, because even with Apple, I think Apple iOS 13 onwards, they support SwiftUI. Now, since it is Apple is released their latest version, Apple iOS I think 16, and if you go back 3 major versions back, so it's gonna be iOS 13, and since iOS 13, we have the native capability of native capabilities of SwiftUI. We will be using SwiftUI as the developer platform. So SwiftUI is somewhat similar to what we have seen in Android Compose. So if you guys can remember, rather than tangling with XML, all the things, we'll be doing everything in code. The UI that we're going to be building is going to be in code. So we'll be using SwiftUI, okay, since it is going to be the latest. And storyboard, I'm not going to touch unless you have a legacy application that you need to develop, but at least to maintain. But if you are going with latest, and if you're trying to develop an application from scratch, I would highly go with SwiftUI and Swift. Obviously, with SwiftUI, you don't have the option of selecting another language like Objective-C. You have to use Swift. Okay, hence the SwiftUI, the name is given. So let's go with SwiftUI. But if you are wondering, okay, let's say for example, I have got an old project which is in Objective-C and storyboard. How I'm going to migrate. So that is also possible. We have some options where you can work with Android and iOS. sorry, not Android device. There's the option of working with storyboard as well as SwiftUI in a single project. I mean, not the other way around. I won't recommend that. So, for instance, if you have a storyboard application which is written in Objective-C or SwiftUI, you can include SwiftUI in that storyboard. But the other way around, I'm not gonna be like super comfortable because SwiftUI makes more things easy. So if you have a legacy application where you need to give new features or give new improvements, we can include SwiftUI in our storyboard applications as well. So it's a little bit complicated to set up, but not that complicated. After the SwiftUI and Objective-C is working with each other, we can even call Swift method, Swift code from Objective-C, Objective-C code from Swift. There is the connectivity, we call this connection bridge, if I can remember correctly. So there is the bridging functionality which we can set up where you can use Objective-C within Swift, Swift within Objective-C. So I mean, not the code itself, but we can call certain methods, create certain objects, and we can move on. So we have the functionality of using both languages if you're using Storyboard, but for SwiftUI, it's going to be Swift only. Okay. So yeah, we can have other features like that. We have this core data support. It's kind of an ORM for Swift applications or iOS application where it's like it's really makes easy to develop database queries, that kind of thing. But we're not going to be using that. But we'll try to include tests. So by default, they don't. They ask whether you like to have test cases within you or not. So we'll go with test. As I mentioned in the last lecture, it is always good to have testing in your application, so you don't break anything. So we have the include test option here and click next. It will take a little bit of time, and I'm just creating the default connection, default location that I got. So Xcode is going to be loading a few of the stuff that we are working with. And yeah, so one thing that you guys need to remember in here, that is the Xcode itself. It's look like Android Studio, but a little bit different. So if I make the coding area a little bit bigger like this, so you guys can see there is code and there is the preview. It's pretty much similar to the compose view that we have seen. But then again, it is most of the time it is sharing the same things in the both world. So that way, if you learn Android itself, Android with Compose, it's going to be pretty much similar to work with. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead with the application in here. You will see the application folds in here. Unlike Android, you don't have like different views or something like that. It's just gonna give the application test, and application UI test. Okay. If you guys can remember, in Android we have Android main, unit test, and Android test. So it's kind of similar thing. We have the source code, and then we have the unit test, and we have the UI test. Okay, we can launch each and every one and work on it. Yeah, that's pretty much it from the application architecture. And there are like changes, hierarchy, search, and so on and so forth. We'll be looking into each of these things pretty much later on. But for now, it's going to be our project structure. We'll be looking at the project navigator around here. Okay. So like what we have seen in like what we have seen in Android. If you guys can remember, we have the concept of different modules. Okay, same thing we can find something similar in Apple, so iOS as well. So we call those things as targets. Okay, we have a single project and we can have multiple targets on it. Okay, so we are not going to be looking into multiple targets at this moment, but have the idea behind it. What is the concept that is mapping to the Android ecosystem? Okay, so if I click on the project itself in here, and you can see um, it's like it's like an overview of the application itself. All right. So if I take the Android manifest, something we have in iOS we call info.plist. This is like the way we have layer it out. Okay, we have this info.plist where you can do some customizations here and there, and yeah, so there are like a lot of things that we can do. Right now, we'll be not going into detailed customization on each. We will be looking at later on how we're gonna use these things. Okay, so we have the build settings, how it's gonna do the building and everything. So unlike Angular, sorry, Android, we don't use a build tool like Gradle. Okay, Gradle is not coming with Android itself. It is a tool that is built like it is a tool that is an external tool, but incorporated into Android Studio. But in Xcode, you have a built-in build tools, build settings, and you can customize these things as well. So we'll be looking into signing and capabilities, and not at this moment, but simply there is like project setups and everything. So as the minimum SDK version, you guys have the options of going back all way back to Android. Sorry, iOS 11, but I would not recommend unless you go that much. Go for something latest, the minimum deployments. Okay, so you are targeting wide variety of new users where you can use the new latest versions. So you have the display name, application category, and all those things. Okay, so if I go to the source where we have the application, so we have these drive applications, kind of like the main entry point. How do I know? So it is decorated or annotated with @main, so it's instruct the iOS runtime. Okay, this is going to be the main execution point, or this is going to be the first place that we're going to be using. And pretty much similar to Kotlin, we have the concept of classes, but we have different in here we have different concepts called structures. Struct, we call this thing in object Swift. So we have the struct. It's kind of like a situation. So class and classes and inheritance, those are coming from objective oriented places, but struct and likes are coming in a slightly different programming paradigm. We have those things in a different code organization pattern, but for now we just think it is like a structural thing that we get our code hold on. Okay, so it is inheriting a class called app. Okay, where this app is coming from, it is coming from the class import in here. It's called SwiftUI. It is coming from SwiftUI itself. So we have something called the app. Okay, then we have the body. Okay, then the body is we have defined it as a variable var, okay, and its name is body, and it is a sum scene. Okay, so sum is a keyword also available in Swift. So some donates that saying it is like a scene. Okay, it is not a scene. So if you go with inheritance polymorphism, it is what we call a replication or a copy of it. But in composition, we don't use the same inheritance and all those things. We use the name. It is more like. Okay, we use the word like. So in this scenario, it's gonna be some sort of a screen. Okay, then we have something called window group, which we use to display something, and whatever we need to show, it's go under the content view. Okay, so we have another class called content view. So content view is the class that you will see in here. Okay, so it's going to be also a structure. Okay, and name is content view. As you can see, we don't use the keyword like new that you used to see. Like in Kotlin, we don't use new. You just call the struct by its name and pass the parameters over here. Now you guys can see we are creating a structure called content view, and within that there is a body. It's going to be a view in this instance. It's going to be like a view. Okay, in here we have something called scene for the main application, the main starting point, and for whatever we're gonna show, it's gonna be a view. Okay, and similar to the Android Compose, we are going to be doing everything using code itself. Okay, so we have bunch of code which will display or render this UI for us. Okay, and let me zoom in for a little bit. Yeah, so it's gonna be basically saying hello world on in here. Okay, we'll look into the code section a little bit on, but if you guys can remember in Android Compose, we have something called the preview. Okay, we can preview whatever we want, like we have seen in here. So content view previews. Okay, we will be previewing the content view. It's gonna be a static preview, and it's gonna be some view, and we'll be providing the content views. The content view is this struct that we want to show. So we can just simply preview for by using this, by having this preview element here. You can preview this nice rendered application in here. So if I want to change anything in here, and it would be compiled into here. Say for example, we can use the UI elements or layout element as you have seen in Android. So we have these things called stacks. Okay, V stack and H stack. V stack for standing for V stack is is standing for vertical stack. Okay, so whatever we are putting in within this section, it's gonna be stacked vertically on on top of the another. And we have the same thing called H stack, which is going to be the horizontal stack. That means one after another in a horizontal way. Okay. We also have the concept of Z stack. Z stack for the third axis. Okay, not Y, X, Y, and Z. So on top of one another. Okay. We have the Z stack as well. We will go into a little bit of each and every layers in here, and we can get an idea how they are organized and all those things. So a basic VStack is here. Okay, VStack, and to show you an image, we just have the image view, and there are a bunch of modifiers, if modifiers kind of things available. As you guys can remember, in Android itself, we use modifiers. Okay, using modifiers, we can define or shape the view itself. So we are defining the image in here. Sorry. By changing these modifiers modifiers from here, and we can scale these image, and we can have a text. Okay, so there are two image, one image and a text that you can see right around here. Okay, the image is a system image which is called globe, and we have image scaling policy and foreground color and so on and so forth. So we will just play around it a little bit so we can get an understanding of what it does. So in order to show a text, earlier we have used labels kind of things, but in here it's simply a text. You can show whatever you like. So it's if you guys can see, you have the similarity in Android Compose as well. So don't worry if you don't own a Mac, just have the mind map. Okay, this is how we did it in iOS, and this is how we're going to do in Android. This kind of a mind map would easily be accessible for you guys. So even though you guys don't have any practice on this, but keeping connection, keeping the uh, these similar structures for you guys will help a lot. All right, so we have an image, and we have a text. So we will just change something in here. Hello world, hello rather than that, hello Andika, and we will save. You can see it's immediately showing up in here. Okay. So say for instance, we need another text field, and we can hit save. You can see it's since it is a vertical stack, it is showing in here. Welcome to SNG SEG 2019, or whatever the number that you like. So we have the welcome to SNG and the text in here. For some reason, now say I want that to be incorporated with an image. So it's really simple. Within the V stack, I will create an H tag. Okay. And within the H tag, I will put it in here. You guys can see a difference right now. But what you can do is, since this is an H tag, I will put another image in here. Okay, image, and the image icon is going to be system name. Okay, so we need to find a system name for the image. I mean, this globe is one. There are like lot of names available. Make sure you are giving right system image name. Clearly, arrow is not something that can apply. Let me double check on the Apple documentation on that. Let me check. Apple image SwiftUI system names. Yeah, available system name in SwiftUI. Okay. So there is an app for that apparently. You can use that, but I will just copy and paste in here. There is a symbol app for that you can use. You can pre-version the Xcode app using the library Command Shift L. Let me try that. And Command Shift L, and it's in this section. Okay, so you guys can see that there are a lot of symbols around here that we can use out of the box. These are called system ones. So let me check for heart. Yeah, there are a lot of hearts available in here. So I will use this heart fill. Heart dot fill. There you go. So now you guys can see it is showing this image rather than in a vertical stack, but now it's in a horizontal stack. Okay. Say for instance, I need this edge tag to have a padding. Okay, I can just go to the end of the edge tag right around here, and I can say padding. Now you guys can see it's automatically applied a padding, which the default version is default padding, I think, as again 16. So it's automatically adding a padding to our application. Okay, it's simple. So we can have these like just simple things that we can do. Say for example, I want to change the color of this text. Okay, or I can change the font of this. So for font, if I go at the end of the text view and click on put a dot in there, then we get a lot of informations or methods that we can design work with. So in like font weight, font design, there we can override. Say for example, for colors, we have this foreground color, we have underline, a lot of things. So if I go with color, and I would go with if I click on dot, and I can select colors in here. That's for foreground color. Let me change the foreground color of the image itself. Okay, and I would say dot red. Okay, and there you go. The preview, it's updated to the latest one. And if I want to make it large, I can say image scale. And if I put a dot in here, it's say large, medium, small. I can use whatever I like. So I will go with large. There you go, and a bit larger than what we can what we have seen. Yeah. So we created a small UI out of a few lines of codes. Okay. So mastering SwiftUI or mastering any framework is all about learning all these things and keep it in simple. So from my preferences, I would go something like this. Okay, we have an image, and what are the modifiers that we have applied on top of it. Okay, and we can do the same for the text as well. Okay, if I have the text in here, and I will say font, and I will say I can have a font in here, and so I can use a system font if I want, or I can have something like already defined ones. For example, I want to be this headline. There you go. You can see the font is changing, and if I want something like large title or something like, let's say for large title, there you go. So the main reason that we are using something like predefined, like in here, the large title and all, it's because at any given time, if you want to change the large title size from a global context, the whole application will be affected by that. So otherwise, if you give a font size like I don't know, 20 pixel or something like that, we have to come it in here and change it everywhere. Rather than changing in each and every place, we can just use a predefined class like this. Then we can use it and apply it in everywhere. So by simply configuring a simple change let's say for all the large titles available, we would like to have it like 2 times smaller, or whatever the number that you come across, you can apply it here. So I will go with something like title. Okay, a little bit okay, and there you go. We have our first SwiftUI applications, and if you're wondering, this is something like the simulator. Okay, the preview that you are seeing in here, it's like the simulator. So what I will do is I will just hit the play button, and it's gonna say build success, and I think I have a simulator running in my application. For the first time, it will be a little bit. It will take a little bit time to show the application, but yeah. After a few tries, you can see this is the simulator. It's like the emulator that you will see in Android, but it's a simulation. Simulation and emulations are a little bit different. But the preview, it's doing a pretty good job, and it is showing what we really expected. Okay. All right. So there you go, our first application. Say for instance, we want to change some things. Let me go to the content view again, minimize the log, reduce the area in here. Okay, I'll just close it for now. All right. Say for example, I want to resume the preview, I can go there. And we have the padding in here for the whole V stack, and for some, I'll delete this section, which I don't need. All right. Now, let me explain the importance of defining these variables the way they are. Okay. Say, for example, I want to add a background color for this whole V stack. So I can say background, and the background color. Okay, and we need to provide the exact configuration in background color. Yeah, so how we gonna do background color? So we have this background, and we can use color class, which will have some sort of color. Let's go with blue. There you go. So now, if you guys take a closer look at the implementation, the background is color blue, right? It's okay. Now, if I change the order, so it is applied to the V stack. How do I know? If I click on here, the V stack, out of the V stack, that means whatever we are applying in here, it's going to be applied to the V stack itself. So, for example, I would change the order. First, add a padding, then have a background color. Okay, as you guys can see, it is changing the area which covers. Okay, so the order matters. Say, for example, I want a background, and then add the padding, then it will be less shrink. But if I say I add the padding first, then add the background color, then the order is different. Okay, so the area of effective area is a little bit different. If I don't say anything like that, so it's going to be taking all the space it's available. So we can simply add padding, then it will add a padding, and after the padding there will be a background color. If I have background color, then padding, then what we'll do is it will add the background color for the VStack, then add a padding. Okay, so the order matters. Make sure you do your designing in the correct order, otherwise the UI would not be looking like that you expected. Okay, say for example, you want to have so this is the edge tag. So within the view, we will have edge tag. Okay, I will remove this edge tag padding. There you go. So the padding for the edge tag is gone. Now it is the V stack is here, and V stack having a padding. If I get rid of that padding, now you guys can see it is only working with the given text area. So I will add the padding again. Now there's a padding, nice padding in here. For the V stack, let's introduce a new one called spacer. Okay. So if I apply a spacer on it, so what happens is the edge tag is there. Okay, there you go, the edge tag. And there is a spacer in here. Spacer in the sense it will add a space, and what will happen is it will take the remaining area to the spacer, and it will scratch around. Okay, so let me show another nice trick. So there is a edge tag in here, so I will add a spacer in between these two ones. So you guys can see that now there's a space between these two, and it will stretch across there. So if I want the other way around, I would simply put this. Now you guys can see, so I have edge tag. Okay, the edge tag has an image, which is this one, and it has a text, which is this one, and there will be a spacer. The spacer will conquer the remaining space until the edge is met. Okay, so the edge tag is like this. So if you guys can't clearly see, I would say I would put a background, and I would say color, and I would go something like I don't know what goes with color. Let's go with green. There you go. So the edge tag itself is covered with green since it is there. The spacer is there. Spacer is for this section, and we have the application around here. So you guys can clearly see the edge tag is covered with this text that we are having. So I would remove this background for now. Spacer is there. Since the icons are not visible, I would give a foreground color for the text. Foreground color, I would say color.white, something like that. So it's easily visible for me. And let's say, for example, I need another edge tag in here. Okay, so we have given we have a V stack. Within that V stack, we have an edge tag. Within that edge tag, we have a spacer, and then again we have an edge tag. Okay. So say for instance, I for better code optimization, so better code view, I need to make these. Sorry. I need to reuse the same thing. It's called space. Okay. I need to reuse the same component, which is this one, throughout the application. Okay. So what we can do is we can simply I will use this. So I need a component in here as well as in here, but I need to make it more, what do you say, more generic. Okay, so if I need another edge tag, it will take a lot of this space, and you can see it's not quite nice. Okay, so I would create a separate view for this, and we can extract that view and call it from here. So we can just simply copy and paste, create another view, and put it there, or you can ask Xcode to do that. Highlight the area that you want to have a component as, and we can write, sorry, write it. Is it command or control? Let's see. Yeah, so it's really simple. And on top of this h tag, so I want this h tag to be whatever the content and everything to be in a different area or different different view that I can reuse every time. So what I do is I normally click on this, and I need to click on this hashtag by holding command button in my Mac. Okay, so there is a special command button, if you don't know, in Macintosh. Not the control button. We have a separate control button, and we have something called the command button. So by I'm pressing on the command button, and I'm clicking on hashtag. Okay, by doing so, it will pop up a view like this, and you can see there's an option called extract to subview. Okay, what it does is, you can see the name has renamed to extracted view, and whatever the things that we need, it is separated to a separate class. Okay, I resume the I did the same thing. So the extracted view is in here. So rather than calling the extracted view, I will rename that. It's same thing. We control click and rename. So rather than saying extracted view, I will say icon text, lazy name. Okay. So icon text is here. Now, if I want to reuse the icon text, I can copy and paste it here. Now, our code is much more simpler and easier to read. Okay. Say for instance, and we want this icon text to be in a different view, different file. You can also do that. In that way, these things will be much more easy to use. Okay. So you guys can see that I did this change in here, but the problem is we need to change these things. Okay, so for example, I need this heart shine to be changed, these text to be changed, and this text to be different than the other one. So what I can do is I can ask for these things to be changed. Okay, so I have this icon text. So I can give these things as inputs to the application. So how I'm going to do that? Really simple. Just let me remove the canvas and bring back the canvas. Something wrong, apparently. Okay, canvas is working back. So I need to give this icon, and it will be in red color apparently, and I can give the text in here. So how I am going to do that? I can pass this value from the view itself. So I will say var icon name, and it's going to be a type of string. Okay. So as soon as I do that, they are saying missing argument, icon name is missing in here. So I can just click on this red button over here, and I can say insert icon, and I will say fix it, and it is asking for a string. And for the first one, I will go hard fill. Okay. For the second one, it is also missing. I will add the fix and icon name. Now what I need to pass in here. For the next one, we would simply let's say copyright. Do we have a copyright? I don't know. Let me use a simple. Okay, I'll use note in this section. Okay, the icon name for the second one is note. Okay, as you can see that I have defined a variable in here called icon name, and they are when we are constructing the icon text, it is asking for icon name note. Okay, so as you can see, when we are constructing, these things are required, and so even though these things are passed, it is not showing the exact thing. That's because we are not using it. The system name, it's by default hard field, but I will use icon name in here. Okay, so yeah, you guys can see the first one is a heart, the second one is a calendar, a little bit hard to see. So what I will do is I will change the blue color to like gray, so it will be much visible and even less. I'll go with white, and I will change this color to black. Okay, so it's easy to see. Now we have the icon changed in here. Okay, but then again I need to change this one. So anyone volunteering how we can do that? Anyone can guide me how we gonna do that? How we gonna change the text in here? Pretty simple. Anyone who is brave enough to guide me through? Yes. Who's gonna help me with this? Nadishani? Hello? Anyone else? Tarindu? Vimukti? Patum? Yes? I'm not on mute, right? Yes, any volunteers, please raise your hand. Simple thing, I just need to pass the text from the icon text. Any volunteers? Raise your hand, please. It's okay to get wrong. It's totally fine. We can try. Yes, any volunteers? No? Dinuka? Okay. So the next thing that we need to do, we need to pass this text, okay, welcome text. So it's going to be a simple thing. So we create another variable in here. We will call this as text to keep it simple, and the text. So if you guys can see now, it's complaining again, missing argument for text, and yes, we can insert it, but there are, say for instance, we need a default text for some reason. The user will not give us anything, but we can say we need a default text in here. I would say default text. Now if I use this text in my input, you can see the default text is this shown in here. But if I want to customize it, say for example, on the top one, I need to have the text. I can simply say text, and I will say welcome to SENG 2204. So you can see I can have a default value, which is called default text, or I can pass a text in here and it will be shown in here rather than the default text. So it's easy that we can use that. So for instance, I want to say text copyrights received, something like that, 2023 or something like that. Whatever you want to show in here, we can have it in here. All right. So it's fairly simple. You can have a default value. Okay, it can be even an empty string, or you can have some text in there where it will show the text that we like. All right. So we talked about separating our logic into a separate file and reusing and stacking it around here, and we are using a spacer to show that, and so many things. And yeah, up until this, you guys have any questions? Any questions, guys? No. Okay. Perfect. Now what we'll do is we will play around with more views, more things that we can have in here. So learning SwiftUI or learning whatever the platform in a sense is learning all the things available within the application itself. So yeah, we can have something like this, and we have worked with VStack and ZStack, sorry, V and HStack. So we'll be looking at something like HStack. Okay, so I will create a button. Okay, I will call it struct. I'll call it red button. Okay, for some reason, and it's gonna be a view, and it's gonna have a body. Okay, it's gonna be a some view. There you go. And for now, when I declare something in body, you have to return something. Okay, a view for sure. So I will be returning an Z stack. Okay, I'll be returning a Z stack. So it's going to be an empty Z stack, but it works. So rather than having the spacer, I would have a button in here, and I will have two spaces here, so we can't see anything right now. But with the C stack, what we can do is we can have something like something we like in here. Okay, for example, I would say I would need a button. Okay, and for button, so button, if I say something like this, it's not gonna work. It's gonna say missing arguments. So what are the things that is missing? So missing arguments parameter one it called. Okay, I will fix it, and it's not gonna give us so many good configuration. But what I know for sure, it's need an action to be completed. And the second thing is for a button, we need a label. Okay, that is the simplest thing that the action will need. For label for action, I will go with whatever the execution that it happens, and what for the label, whatever it's gonna show. For the label, I would go with let's start with something simple, text, and I will say a red button. Okay, now you guys can see there is a button and it is clickable in here. So for example, I want to show something on the button itself. When we click on it, we can do it in this section, which is called the action itself. So if I want to print something like look at in Angular, So Android, I will say clicked on the button, okay, and for some reason for testing these things out, this preview is not the best place that I would say. And I think if I'm not mistaken, these things are not even showing in the print area as well. Yes. So we need to make sure these things are printing and working. To do that, what we have to do is we have to run this in a simulator and then get the values, whether the button execution is happening. So if I click play button in here, and build succeeded. Let me get my, the button simulator is looking good. And I can, if I don't see my log area, it's right on the bottom right. Show the debug area, and it's going to show us some debug messages. I will clear this for first, and I would go to my simulator and click on the button. Now you can see clicked on button message is printed out. Okay, it's fairly simple and easy to use as we have seen in Android. Okay, but the text in here, it is something that in a Z, what do you call, C stack. Okay, but I would minimize this for now, but text is there. But I will try to put a background in here, and I would say color, and I'm not sure, red, since it is the red button. Okay, preview paused. Let me get back to the preview. There you go, the button is showing something there, and let me get a padding on it so we can see a little bit clearly. Okay, let me change the text foreground color, foreground colors to be white. Okay, there you go. So we have the button which is with the padding, and it is covered in red color. Okay, so simply we can create a button like this, and we can click on it and click on it. But the but when we look at the Z stack itself, we haven't used the Z stack in here. So what I'll do is I will create another element in here. For this time, I would say another text, and I would say nice text. Okay, now you guys can see. I'm not sure whether it is clear or not. Okay, let me zoom in. There you go. So the nice text and the red button is overlapping on each other. Okay, that means they are not in like a horizontal area or a vertical area. They are on each other. So button is here, then on top of that, in front of that, the text is shown. Okay, so button is here, on top of that the text is shown. So this is the Z stack in action. We can change that. If I put the text in front, you won't see it because the button is much more larger. So, but if I remove these things, and you can see they are overlapping or colliding with each other. So it is showing something. So, but I want this button to have some sort of background color for these things. We can do simple things like drawing things, which we will use something like a rectangle. Okay, rather than showing a simple one, we have these things called rectangles. Okay, and if you look at the Z stack now you guys can see the rectangle I have I have put something like sorry, I have put the rectangle in. I have created a rectangle and fill it with a gradient, which is starting from indigo and ending in purple. And I will say ignore the safe area. That means don't think about the safe area in here. But this is a rectangle, and be on on the top or in front of it, we have a button which has this. So we have a padding and background color. You guys can see that the Z stack is on the on a plane which is underneath the red button. Okay, so if I want to frame it, I can use this keyboard called frame. Okay, and I can give a width and let's say 400 or something like that. Yeah, it's gonna stretch around 400. If I say 20, it's gonna go 20. And if I want to say 8 and I want to make it 20, there you go. Since it is centered around, you won't see. Let's make it like 40. Still not enough. 50. Let's go for 100. Yeah, there you go. So it is occupying the area of that. Say for instance, I want to occupy, let's say, it's the width should be like 100. Okay, it's 120. There you go. And the height is around, I think, 80, maybe. No, not 80. 75. Still not. 60. Yeah, around 60. Let's say 60. Now, rather than having the background of red, I can remove that. And there you go. I have a button which is exactly like the one we had, but in a gradient one. Earlier on, we had only like a red button, okay, and it is not that eye pleasing if you look at the colors and everything. But in here, we have a indigo to purple. Let's go change to red to pink or something like that. So make it. I'm not sure that I can see a difference. Red to orange, maybe. Yeah, there you go. So we have a button which is on a C stack, and it is first plane is it is containing a rectangle. The next plane is containing a button which you can see in here. Okay, and say for example we want to have rounded corner radius. I can say corner radius and radius in, I'm not sure, like 8. There you go. So the corners are getting bolder. If I go with 16, it's much getting curved on the edge. I'm not sure that you guys can see it. Let me zoom in. There you go. So we have this, and the red button is looking good. So if I want to change the corner radius, maybe, I don't know, 32 or something like that, it's gonna be like, yeah. So we have the option of providing it in a Z stack and a button and a padding, and it will work as expected for us. Okay, but make sure since it is in a Z stack, if you guys closely look at this is clickable, but if I go a little bit down, it is not clickable. That's because the area which is the rectangle is in not is the same as the button. Now, if you enable padding, then yes, it is expanding a little bit, but you have to make sure it is clickable at all times. So if I say background and I say color, green, so I can easily see. There you go. So even though there is like an illusion that you will see, this is the exact area of the clickable area that we will be having into this button. So if I add a corner radius to this, yes, then it is much more makes sense to have it like this. Then again, it's up to you how you guys do the changes. And if I want, I can use the fill option. No, so the main reason that we are using this is that the fill option, it is not available in buttons. So if I go click here and say fill, no, fill is not available. That means I can't use a gradient. But if I want to use a gradient, I can put it in a background using a C stack and put the button on top of it, and it's just the same job. Okay. Now, if I want another red button, all I have to do is okay. All I have to do is change this red button and put it in here. There you go. So I have two red buttons in here, which I can reuse anytime. So reusing components as much as possible is like the go-to way of doing application development. So you don't have to reinvent everything. Or you don't have a messy code along the way. So it will be really easy as long as you do small components like this and reuse them all the time. And as I mentioned earlier, you guys can remember when we are writing test cases, in there even writing test cases is much more easier and faster. That's because the code that we are going to test is little, okay, very small things that I need to test and very small things that I need to do. So yeah, so pretty much we looked into several stacks, V stack, H stack, and C stack, and how we can use them in different contexts. All right. Anything up until these guys? Any questions? Okay, seems not. Okay. So we can also use assets. Okay. So for instance, I want to show an image in here. Okay, we can do that as well. Let me get a quick assets image. See if I can find a nice image. Okay. I think I have some. Okay, let me save the image in my desktop. I will call this, oops. What's this? Okay, desktop, let's say. Okay, so we need we need an image to be shown in here. Okay, we need to include that in our project. So I will go to the project navigation once again in here and go to the project navigation. Then there is a section called assets. Okay, so this is like where you're going to store your all the images that you are getting. and different resolution kind of thing. So I'm gonna create a new asset. I would call, I will click on this plus button on the bottom right here, and I will click on image assets since I am interested in an image. Okay, I will call this, I'll call this, what was thing that I downloaded? Okay, volcano. I download volcano. Okay, so this is the image name that we'll be using, and I need to insert three type of images in order to make it work. That means different resolution, 1x, 2x, and 3x. Right now, I'm not gonna be working with high resolution, so I'm gonna just say uh, I'm just not gonna do any high resolution images. I'm just gonna drag the volcano JPG in here and just put it in here. Okay. So I have these images at called volcano. Okay. If you have more high resolutions, you can just import these things in here. Okay. Now what I do need to do is go in here and show the image that I have taken out from internet on top right around here. So I will remove the first image icon. I would say I would use the image. Okay. And I would go with something like the image name. So since I have the asset name as volcano, okay, I can use that in here. Volcano. Let's see whether it is showing. Yes. So image assets that I have shown in here, it is showing up in here as well. And since the image is shown in here, we can do various stuff with that. We can resizable, we make it resizable. That means it can be changed in size. There you go. So it is taking a lot of spaces. If I say resizable, it's going to expand rapidly. I would remove this padding. So it's going to occupy the whole thing. And I can say, okay, rather than having a huge area, I would frame it. Okay, frame it height 8. Okay, I would say 400. 400 even too much. Let me go with 200. Yeah, 200 seems to be good, but a little bit distorted. But anyhow, the objective is to show an image in here. Okay, so pretty much you can use this asset directory and go with the images that you are getting and put it in here, and you can show it in the application by referring the image asset name. Okay, simple stuff but powerful. Yep, so we have this, and let's run this once again. Yeah, there you go. You have the image and everything that we want to show within the simulator. It's not like the best UI you will find, but you know, at least it is something. Let's go to headline. So make it a little bit smaller. There you go. I would remove this spacer. And the spacer on like center it out, but it's up to you how you're gonna do it. Right, receive. Yeah. So this is like a dummy thing that we have done. So we have put an image in here using assets. Same way, you can have colors as well. Say, for example, I need a specific color, specific theme kind of thing that I want to use, I would just go in here and select color set. Okay, you can name the color. I would go with prefixing it, so I am not confusing the colors and the assets. So I would go with color, and I would say orange. Okay, then there are two appearances. If you guys can remember, in Android we even have any appearance and the dark appearance, or light and dark modes. So if I want to have any appearance, that means the light appearance, I click on it and I will click on this button on here, inspector. And in here you can see the hex value for the appearance or the color. Right now it is in white. For dark mode, let's assume it 1D, 1D, 1D. Okay. Yeah, so the light color is this one, and the dark color is the other one that you will see in here. Okay, and we can use this color since this is color orange. I would make more appropriate one. F60, if I can remember. Yeah, this is a good combination. So if it is in any like if it is in light mode, it will be in orange. If it is in dark mode, it will be in dark. But in the I'm going to be applying this to a text, so I'm not going to go. Let's go with this one for now. And yeah, I will close the inspector on here. And yeah, for this I would simply create what do you call a text view. Okay, I would have a text, and I would have this name volcano. Okay, and in here I would say color, foreground color. And I can say earlier we used this color dot green or whatever. Now what we can do is rather than using foreground color, okay, now you have the option of color. You can name this dot init, init, and the name of the color. I have the color name color dash orange, if I'm not mistaken. There you go. Now you guys can see. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Text resizable, and I would frame it foreground color, and I would say font dot headline. Not headline. Let's say title 3 or something like that. Scale little, large title. Okay, make more sense. So I have a text, and the foreground color is initialized by color orange. Okay, now it is show it in orange. So how do we change and see whether it is in dark mode? How we gonna preview it in dark mode? So you have a couple of options. Let me check iOS preview dark mode. In dark mode, there is simple one I can't remember. Okay, you have to say the preferred color schema. Okay, that's simple. So this is the light mode preview, and I will create another preview for this. I'll copy the existing preview and I will paste it. What will happen? This is image content preview. Let's say dark. We can't have the same name. That might be the case. Save it. Content view. You can see the content view dark in here and content view in here. So I will go to content view dark, but still I just copy and paste. So I would need to change the content view to preferred color scheme, and I would say dark. Okay, now it is rendering in dark mode. Now you guys can see I gave the dark color in here, but I haven't changed anything in the other areas. So volcano in here, it is in black, but it is in dark mode, it is in black. But if you go to content view, which is in light mode, it is in this color. That's because the color change is not visible. We have explicitly said the VStack background color to be white. Let me create a dark mode asset for that. So I will create another asset in here. Color set. Oops. Color, and I would say background. Okay. For the light appearance, we will go to inspector around here, and we will have like C3 kind of thing. And that's too much, I think. D9 is perfect. Yeah, much better. For the dark mode, I would go with something like 333. Oh, yeah, something like that. So the any appearance, it will have this, and for the dark appearance, it will have like very dark color. So I will go to the content view. Rather than having the background color white, I would say dot init, and the name is color background. Okay, it's building. Right. Sorry, background. Okay, I have to make it init. Background dot init. Color background. Stylish shape cannot be constructed because it has no accessibility. Okay. Let's see what's the error in here. Apparently, background is not accepting my color. I think what's it? Color dot init. Okay, name is color background. Okay, yeah. So we can't use dot init. We have to use color dot init. And yeah, there you go. So the background color, we have these the what do you call that, gray color thing. And if you go to the dark mode, yeah, there you go. Obviously, I did a wrong choice in showing orange one. There should be something that is visible on the dark. Let's move like D9, D9, D9. D9, D9, D9. Okay. I go to content view, remove the inspector, let the preview load, and go to the dark mode. There you go. The dark mode is having a little bit of different colors. So yeah, this is how you're gonna develop light mode and dark mode for the application. You guys can use these anywhere in the application. Not how it's easy that we can use this content, and make it accessible for everywhere. And yeah. Rather than hard coding any values, we can use image sets like that we have done in here. And we can use those things throughout the application, like assets, colors, images, and so on and so forth. So basically, it's keeping the code range wise. I would recommend, at least for now, this is like within a one single class, but single file. I would recommend to move it to a different file. Sorry. So in that way, it's easy to maintain, and the actions and all those things in a different place. So yeah, right. So this has been a simple application, just to give an idea on how we can code a SwiftUI application. There are a lot of things that we need to do, especially when it is coming, how we gonna change something, how we gonna look in a perspective where, say for instance, uh, yeah, for like very simple UI in this scenario. There are things like if you guys can remember, when we click on this button, let's say for instance we need to change the button text for some reason. Let's try to do that and see whether it is working as we did earlier. Okay, let's go to the button in here. Okay, you click the button and I want to change the text from red button to something else. First of all, we need to move it to a variable, let's say button text, and it's going to be in type of string, and I would say red button, and I would want to show it in here. Let's say button text, there you go, same thing. But since this is a variable, I can say button text equal you clicked on the button. Okay, button text. So it's saying cards is immutable. Yeah. So even though I tried to have variable in here, and even I try to set the variable in here, I'm not allowed to do that. Okay, so how we can get rid of this error is that we can say okay, this is immutable. Yes, immutable in the sense when we create this, it is not going to be changing. So but what we can do is to make this okay, immutable in a sense. Immutable in the sense we have to add another special keyword. Let me get that SwiftUI. It's observable if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, sorry, state. So I have to put it at state. Okay, so at state in the sense we say okay, this can be an immutable one. That means if you click on it, it might change the state of the text. So it is allowed. So let me try it. Yes, you can try it on the simulator even itself. You can see it is changing, but our poor judgment on this, the text is not within the rectangle, so it is not as the expected one. Yeah, the button is much more huge. If I click on it, now you can see you have clicked on the button, it is changing. So compared to Android stuff, it's a little bit easy. All we have to do is annotate it at state. So with that state, it is allowing us to change, and whenever this state of this button has changed, it will re-render and show it in here. Okay, so pretty much easy in terms of working with this. And if I want the red button in here to not look like something out of alien ship, I would say 8 around 40. Ah, there you go. So the button is much more nicer. Width, I would say, you can say infinity. That means it will stretch as long as it's like. Okay. So infinity till infinity it will stretch, but also remember when you are giving variables parameters, the order is matter. So it is width and height. I can't give height and width. That is a restriction from Swift itself. If you are naming your variables, they should be in the correct order as well. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay, and if I click on the red button, you click on the button, and there you go. So it's more easy to work with and also fun. Okay, so we have looked into several things, and one might wonder how we can get this notch area, the image even itself, out of this notch area. That is something that we can do with removing the safe area. Okay, we normally, when we are developing an application nowadays, they are countering the safe area as well, which is like if we have a camera or anything blocking, we can utilize this section by saying simply do not overlap with the safe area. Whatever you are rendering, whatever you are showing, go out of the safe area and render these things up. Oh yeah, and yeah, probably this is something very small. The button itself, the text in here is within the component itself. Okay, this button is within the context itself, so the state works. But what if we want to change the copyright received button, which is out of this context? How are we going to do that? We can also do that in something we call a callback or a reference. We can also do that. But in this scenario, I'm not going to do that. We'll just keep it like simple, but remember to modify it, we need to have it at state variable. Sorry, state annotation. Okay. Anything up until this, guys? Do you have any questions? I know this will be a little bit harder to you guys to practice unless you don't own a Mac. But what to do? I must conclude everything, but you guys can see a similarity between Android Compose, Flutter, React Native, SwiftUI. All are like following the code as a UI pattern. Okay, this is coming. This is something that we have seen in React Native world first, and it is highly adapted in the other frameworks like Flutter, Compose, and even SwiftUI. And it is much more simpler to rather than dragging and dropping everything from code or XML editor. Everything is now within one view, one code base, so you guys can easily check on it. Yeah. Anything up until this, guys? Nope. Okay. Let me stop share as well as I'm going to stop